What's up, guys? I'm back. This is Paul, and this is Pauline Theology, and we are doing our daily Devo, and we are in the book of Judges on our Gideon saga. Glad you joined. Whether it's morning, noon, or night, man, I'm glad you are here listening. So, what do we got going on? So, what we do here is we usually talk about first what is the story actually saying, what's going on here, and then second, we talk about what we see in the scriptures about God. What does the scriptures convey about God's character? And then next we see what is the scripture conveying about the character of man, whether they are Christians, non-Christians, or just man in general. And then finally, how can we apply these truths to our life? So let's go ahead and jump into it. We should have read Judges chapter 8, verses 5 through 21. I'm doing a little bit different this time. I'm going to just go ahead and jump into what it talks about. As you can read, you can pause it or whatever and read through it, and then I'm just going to jump in and talk about it. Hopefully that'll help save time as you have a lot of stuff going on through your day. So I pray that will help out with you. Anyway, so what do we see? What happened? What even occurred in the story, man? Well, we got these guys, Zeba and Zalmunna, that he's going after. And when he goes after him, he stops by a couple of places, Sukkot and Penuel. And when he's at Sukkot, he asks them for some bread, man, to eat, because people are weary from chasing after these guys going through this difficult time at war. And the people of Zeba, they just, I guess, Gideon thinks they ridiculing him. And he's like, hey, you ain't, is the hands of Zeba already in your hands? Guys already give them into your hand? And he got mad at that. And so he's like, man, when I come back, dude, I'm going to whip you guys, man, with some thorns, with a whip full of thorns. Teach you guys a lesson. Y'all going to learn something. And then he goes to another town, Penuel, and he asked them the same thing to help them so they may eat. And they gave him the same answer. And he told them, well, you come back, I'm tearing down this tower, homie. And so after he went and he caught those guys, he came back. And, he whipped them folks, man. He told them, because you taunted me and I got these folks, didn't give me no bread, I'm going to whip you. And he beat them. And then he went back to Penuel, man. He tore down the tower like he said, but then he did even more. It said he killed the entire city of Penuel. All the men in that city. What's going on, Gideon? What's going on? And then after that, man, it says that he asked about some people, his brothers, that Zeba and Zalmunna had captured. And he's like, what's up with them? And he said, they were like you, bro. He said, we slaughtered them. And then Gideon said, if they would have lived, I would have let you live. And he swore by God. He says, by the God of the living. He said, if you would have let them live, I would have let you live. But instead, Gideon commanded their death. And he commanded it from his son, his firstborn, a young cat, man. He said, kill him. But his son wouldn't do it. It said he was young. He was a youth. So he didn't draw a sword. And then after that, dudes taunt him again. They were like, oh, yeah. If you a man, do what a great man gonna do. And so Gideon killed him, man. He killed him. And then after he killed him, he took all of their jewelry. Stuff on the camel's necks, man. I guess them boys was rich. They had it on their camel's necks, too. But what can we see about God's character in this? Well, I think one thing about God's character is that he's gracious. That's the big thing we talk about a lot of times in this book, is that God is sovereign and he's gracious. And then also the people look more and more like God. But at this point in time, we're going to talk about the graciousness of God, because what he does is he still brings victory into Gideon and henceforth to the people of Israel through him, despite the fact that he has gone off the rails. Gideon has gone off the rails, man. He's killing entire cities. He's killing entire cities because they made fun of him. Yeah, that ain't the way it goes, man. But God would be gracious to deliver a people through a person who we see beforehand definitely didn't deserve it because he was a scaredy cat, but now abusing his power. And second, what do we see about man? It looks like that man is hungry for revenge, man. I think the reason that Gideon is so overwhelmed, so angry that it would cause him to kill a whole city and then make his son try and kill these two people is because he's after revenge for some reason. These guys went and murdered his brothers, and so he's a bit mad about it. This stuff can take over, man. Men can be consumed by revenge and therefore misuse or abuse the power that God has given them. What can we learn about this, and how can we apply it to our lives? As well, first off, recognize that we all fall astray, right? We all fall astray, but God is gracious to help us. And don't think that just because we're successful that this is the desire of God in our lives. Sometimes He's just graceful or gracious to a person that does not deserve it. And that's one thing that's hard as we read through this is this doesn't give us a clear yes or no, this is right or this is wrong. It just describes things that happen. But as we read, we recognize that the character of God and His graciousness to do something, and we see something wrong that Gideon did, and we see that God is gracious in it. And so let's apply that to our lives, is recognize that, man, God is gracious, infinitely gracious to a person that doesn't deserve it. And so let us walk in that graciousness. And I appreciate you guys for listening. And yeah, man, this Gideon saga has turned out to be a little different than what we thought we heard in our bedtime stories about Gideon in the Old Testament. And we'll see that about a lot of other characters as well. So I pray that you guys continue and apply this in your life.